Alright, hey guys, Freddie here. I'm here with Chyna. And we're
working on our tans.
Working on our tans and being a little bit lazy at the gym right now. So Chyna, real quick, let's talk about linear progression because we just started a linear progression cycle.
Sure.
Alright, so what is the goal of the linear progression? So like right now we're in 5x5. So what's the end goal?
The end goal is it's a 5-week cycle of 5x5s, and there will be very minimal, if to none, Olympic lifting during this cycle just because we have so many movements to cover. But your goal is to start at a decent weight and increase weight every single week. You should have a decent idea of where you would like to be for 5 reps in a 5-rep max, and your goal by week 5 is to be, I would say, depending on the movement, within 10 to 20 pounds of your goal for a 5x5.
So what would be the start weight for a 5x5? How would you figure out your starting weight?
So for a starting weight, I would ask them, what is your goal for a 5-rep max? Most people have a decent idea of what that is. Most people have a decent idea of what they would like to hit for 5. I would say, minus, let's say 20 pounds from that. Say if my goal is 225 for a 5-rep max, 205 is probably where I would like to end my 5x5. And then I would backtrack from there. Most of the movements you're going to get roughly 4 times within the 5-week period. So with that being said, you would minus 40 pounds from that, and that would be roughly your starting weight. Obviously, that's just a rough estimate. So from 205, you drop 30 to 40 pounds, and your starting weight for the movement would be 165 to 175, just depending on how you feel.
Gotcha.
That's how I would do it. If it was someone more new that doesn't have a 5-rep max, a 3-rep max, or a 1-rep max, I would say on a scale from 1 to 10 for pretty much every movement except for the deadlift, I'll explain that in a second, you should probably start, on where it feels like a 6 out of 10. Not super hard, but definitely not easy. You want to make it worth it. The deadlift's a little bit different because you're not going to get that one as much because I have to alternate between sumo deadlift on one week and deadlift on the other week. So I told most people to start heavier on that because you're only going to get it 2 or 3 times.
Okay, so let me lay out the progression, how it's going to go. So we're going to go 5 weeks of 5x5?
5 weeks of 5x5, and then we're going to go 2 weeks to test 5-rep maxes. After that, we'll take a 2-week hiatus and do some fun stuff. Maybe stuff we don't see very often, like snatch balances or snatch complexes or clean complexes or pause squats, or just some fun stuff that isn't a linear progression. After that 2-week period, we'll repeat the same thing but do it for 3s. We'll go 5 weeks of 5x3 and then a 2-week testing period. Do the same thing, take a hiatus for 2 weeks of something more fun or different, however you want to look at it, before we do something similar to get to a 1-rep max.
Right. We're going to do it before we've done 8x2s and 5x1s.
Before we used to just go straight through 5x5 and then test and then 5x3s and then test. And sure, that's easy for me as a programmer because I'm just I know my movement rotation. I just program 5x5s all day, but that makes my job really boring. Gets kind of monotonous and boring for you as well. So we're just trying to change it up, be a little different than we were before, and hopefully it works out just as well.
Yeah, cool. So we're probably thinking about a good maybe 5 months before we test a 1-rep max or so.
Probably, but you'll be doing a lot of different types of testing for heavy lifts in between that time frame.
Yeah.
So.
And what the big I think important feed on this is when we take off, especially now we're just starting and we're only in our 3rd day, is that I tell the people, and I've been a victim of it myself, is where you're too aggressive at the start.
Absolutely. It's definitely, you definitely skate a fine line of being too aggressive where you can't add weight or you feel like you're going to die for 5 weeks, or just not making the first week or 2 worth it, where some people start a little too light where it was kind of pointless for a week or 2. So we got to kind of stay on top of them with where they start and make sure that it's a smart decision. But so far, I think we've been doing pretty good.
Cool. And right now is also another thing that
Hi, Sione, you're blocking my son. I'm just kidding.
Also, Also, right now is the time we need to reiterate to people about keeping their logs.
Yes, absolutely.
Keeping
Oh,
their
I told
numbers.
everyone today. Write down your numbers, get behind the whiteboard, take a picture of the board, save it in a different album. You don't want to be doing the same weight every single week or make a huge jump on accident and then realize, oh shit, I can't add for 3 more weeks. So yeah, really keep track of it. It helps tremendously.
Yeah, if you guys aren't using Beyond the Whiteboard, it's definitely something that you should really be looking into now that we're into this linear progression. It keeps track of all your numbers for you, and you're definitely going to want to have that going on.
Yep.
Any last words about linear progression? I think that was a pretty good understanding of it.
Just note that like you probably feel kind of shitty because 5 days in a row of 5x5s, especially when you're not used to the volume, is a lot. So just make sure that you're drinking a lot of water, taking a lot of time to stretch and cool down, whether it's walks because the weather is beautiful, or just sitting on a bike or rolling out or whatever. It's worth the 5 to 10 minutes that you spend before and after to get that done. Again, especially because the volume is dramatically higher than it has been.
Cool. All right, I think that is good for GFY.
Do I look more tan?
You look very tan.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was the whole point.
You look totally tan. So I think that'll be a good one for the GFY vlog, episode number 4, Chyna on linear progression. All right, guys. Check you later. Bye.